the new Burning Legion single. Injustice is streaming everywhere on all platforms now. Off their debut album, En Sabah Nur.
We're off to the races. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I got a special guest. I have Becky, the bassist for Mercyful Fate and for Fury, the two projects going on. But this is, and I forgot to tell you before I hit record, but you're the second female on Beyond the Heavy. So yes,
Oh, cool, cool.
which is great,
Excellent.
So Becky, again, I want to thank you so much for your time, for coming on the show. But I want to kind of start things off. I mean, you're a bass player. I've been watching you. I've been watching your career. Doing a lot of covers as you started, right? Doing a lot of Iron Maiden, which is my bread and butter, Steve Harris, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I want to ask you, what other bass players, or how did you get into bass? That started your career.
So I'd say my main influence is Cliff Burton of Metallica. I think his playing is just phenomenal, really. Like, he has so much character to what he plays, and like such an aggressive style. And I don't know, it just seemed like he would have been such a legend to kind of see the rest of his career with Metallica, if only that could have happened. But yeah, I like that he wasn't shy to like do more of like lead style, like lead guitar type things. But equally, when it was kind of, I don't know, songs like Battery, where he's just in the groove and he's just like knows where to take a more background approach. So yeah, like he was definitely my main influence when I first started playing. Now I'm more leaning towards Geezer Butler of Black Sabbath. I find his approach just really interesting, really bluesy, very improvised, and he just seems like a really cool dude as well. Like,
Oh
he
yeah.
seems, they
Well,
both
yeah,
seem,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I
they
mean, if you're
both
in
seem
Black
really
Sabbath,
chill.
you're
Like, you can hang out with them,
exactly. I mean, if you're in Black Sabbath, you're in the greatest band of all time, right? So
Yeah.
and I
And he
think
was like their main lyricist and like, one of the big driving forces behind the band. And so, for someone who's, just a bass player and, a bit of a background instrumentalist, he had such a huge role in creating the greatest, like the first heavy metal band of like in the universe. And I don't think he gets enough credit sometimes.
exactly. I think again, as a kind of like before I hit record, bass player to bass player, right? We gotta kind of get left to the wayside, right? We're kind of just like, hey,
Mhm.
but I think someone like yourself and these new generations and these new cats, we're stepping up to the plate, right? We're getting some new toys, we're getting some new great equipment, we're getting some new things that are kind of being able to push out to the forefront, right? But I could see that with your influence, right? With Cliff Burton, you're using the Rickenbacker basses, right?
Mhm.
So we'll definitely get to the gear in a bit. I know that
Right.
we got a section for the gearheads, but any other bass players, any other modern bass players that you kind of like, you have your eye on as of late?
Okay, think of like modern bass players. I don't know. Like, I guess there's the bass players. Hang on, sorry, it's gone blank.
No, it's okay. It's okay. That's fine. Yeah.
um, like I listened to like Crypta. I really like Fernanda
Okay.
Lira, their bass player.
Oh, she's great.
She's just, oh, again, seems like a super cool dude. Like,
Yeah.
watching her like stories, like her little updates and videos from the road, and when she's talking to fans, seems like genuinely a really nice person, a great front person as well. And I don't know, yeah, I find her really inspiring as a bass player.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, and she's great. She's great too. Yeah. 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 I think and you guys got the same kind of approach with the fingers, right? Very, very, very,
Yes.
very aggressive approach, which is great, especially for what we play, right? The heavy stuff, right? But I want to kind of ask. I mean, it wouldn't be a good podcast if I didn't ask, like, hey, and to congratulate you for earning the spot in Merciful Fate, right? And I think a lot of people were really surprised. A lot of people were happy and genuinely excited for what's happening with you joining that band, because I think you've already had like a good following prior, but now we got, you know, a very, very iconic band, iconic group, and yourself. You know, if it's okay, can you let us know a little bit how that came about? How were you able to join them?
So they were just looking for a bass player for their American tour in 2022, because their bass player that they had, Joey Vera, also playing with Armored Saint, and he's a very important. He's like an integral member of Armored Saint. I think he's like one of the original members, so they can't really tour without him. So I think, you know, it was working for a while. Him joining Mercyful Fate when they had very occasional gigs, but when it like touring commitments ramped up, and then Armored Saint had more of a kind of resurgence than they thought they were going to have. I think that was a little bit unexpected. And then after like COVID and everything, like so many dates being moved around, it just ended up with clashes. So Joey had to step out of he did the European tour, but he had to step out of the American tour. So they were looking for a bass player. Apparently they were given some recommendations of bass players, and they didn't think that any of these bass players they were looking at were really the right fits. So they started kind of expanding their search. And apparently one of the things that King commented on was, he said, well, the list you've given me, these are all men, and we don't necessarily have to have a male bass player depping for us. Like it could be a woman. Like, is there anyone knows? Like, let's expand the kind of the places that we're looking. And when King said that, Hank kind of, this idea came into his mind. He was like, oh, actually, I've seen this bass player on like Instagram. You know, she does all these cool classic metal covers on the bass, and she has a style that kind of reminds me of Timmy Hansen. And you know, she also tours. It's not like she you know, has no experience of touring, but she's probably going to be available. She'll probably want to do it. and he was cool. Right, you know. So yeah, like I think that very quickly after that, I think they were already at Bloodstock Festival, which is their first UK show in about 25 years or something. And I was there because I wanted to see them. I'd never met them or heard anything about this whole them needing a bass player. I had no idea. But yeah, I was. They were like, let's. They found out that I was going to be at Bloodstock Festival. So they kind of sent out their people being like, oh, does anyone know who Becky Baldwin is? Can you find her? And it's like, I can't remember how many people are there, like 12,000 people at this festival.
It's a lot of people.
Go find Becky. Like,
she's just right there.
Who she is and where she is, like, you know, in this huge campsite and all of the different bars and like the 4 different stages, and 4 or 5 stages.
It's a lot.
And eventually someone did come up to me and was like, oh, Becky, you have to come with me now. And yeah, I followed them and ended up, I'm like, hang on, we're going backstage. What's going on here? Okay. And then realized I'm going to meet Mercyful Fate. This is a bit crazy. And then, I got to meet King Diamond, and and then they were like, oh, do you know why you're here? And I'm like, no. I was getting a little bit concerned. I don't really know why I'm here. And they said, we need a bass player for North America later this year. We'd like to know if you'd be available for it. And I'm like, I'm going to make myself available for it. Totally, yes. Let's do it. So, so that's how I did the first tour with them. Then I also did the Mexico shows that year as well. Then nothing last year. There weren't any shows, but they did plan for South America. And so soon we're going to be going to Brazil and Chile. And so they were like, oh, Joey, can you do these shows? And again, he was on tour with Armored Saint. Like they're still touring. And they kind of started to look at it and be like, well, that's kind of like 3 trips in a row Joey's not been able to do. And we're just about to start a new album cycle, like to start recording the new album. So we kind of need a bass player in place to do the album, who's also going to do the touring. We want someone more permanent and that the fans can get used to. And yeah, so when they kind of started thinking, well, who are we going to get, like the overwhelm, like from both the band's fans, and like it was like, well, I feel like you've already found someone. And I was like, I mean, I'm definitely down for it. Like I will, I'd be truly honored to be part of a Mercyful Fate album. I mean, like it's just, you know, like that's making history right there, you know, for me. So yeah, so that's how it all came about. That's that's condensed from like a couple of like, you know, 2 years of, you know, everything happening. It was just crazy, you know. Like I really didn't expect it to be offered in the first place, the depth. I didn't really know how it was going to go, if I'd pull it off, if I'd make a good impression, or if the fans would receive me well or anything like that. And then afterwards I thought, you know, that tour is done. I say goodbye to everyone. I don't know if I'm ever going to see them again. Like it's who knows what happens next. And I just, you know, didn't expect to have really any contact with them again. But then when they started saying, you know, we're thinking about bass players and what would you say if we offered it to you? Then I'm like, oh my God.
That's exciting. That's exciting. Because I mean, you know, and I think, you know, the as a community, as a metal community, even the online stuff, right? Especially, you know, we got you know, the keyboard warriors and stuff. I think people were genuinely happy, right? I think these are one of those stories that people like, hey, you can't, there's nothing really negative to say, where it's like, you know, it's very wholesome to see like how even King Diamond himself was like, hey, why does it have to be a guy? Right? It could be, let's, you know, we're in 2024, like let's get the women in here, you know. You know, and I think 2024 we're seeing a very, very powerful presence of women coming into metal, which I think is phenomenal. I think it's needed to be done, you know, and that's coming from a mama's boy, you know. You know, so but I gotta ask, you know, as somebody who's now officially in the band, you know, how is it working with King Diamond? How is he, you know, with working with him musically and being on tour with him? What's that like?
So I think like most of the time he keeps to himself quite a lot. I think it's definitely a singer thing. Like I think he's very talkative. Like he's not like a kind of, oh, it's a vocalist thing, like they have to be on their own, but like he's super chatty and just wants to tell all these stories and like make loads of jokes and chat and stuff. But if he does that all day while we're traveling, by gig time his voice is going to be kind of tired.
Correct.
So he I think, you know, he's aware of his tendency to talk a lot, and so he kind of keeps to himself most of the time. And you know, I think, you know, everyone's quite I guess because they've been doing it for such a long time, they've been doing it since the 80s, so now like I don't know, everyone's kind of chill and keeps to himself. I don't have any like rock and roll tour bus stories, you know, to share with you, because everyone's just like, yeah, it's cool, we got another show. Like they just get on with whatever they need to do, you know, on the phone to their partners, or just, you know, chilling out and being keeping in the right mindset for the shows that are coming up. So in terms of like tours, it's kind of like that. And I think King likes to work quite a lot when writing as well. So the main kind of communication is mostly for me through Hank. So I think most of us speak to Hank about what's going on with the start of the demos. Then he will kind of filter through to King, and then King will go back to Hank, and then Hank will speak to the rest of us. So like, so I speak to King occasionally, but it's not very much like direct at the moment. But you know, like so far mostly I've been looking at the demos that Hank has sent to me, you know, for the new album. So that's like I think at the moment, like there isn't that much that me and King need to discuss. Like he's working on his stuff. He's also working on King Diamond stuff as well, of course.
He's very busy.
He's very busy at the moment. I'm not going to start calling him up. You know, his time zone is going to be very different from mine, and so it's like difficult to get get that all to sync up.
Yeah. Well, and then I think especially somebody with King Diamond, it's kind of like, there's already a system in place, right? There's
Yeah,
already yeah, there's already like, okay, this is how we've done things for quite some time, right? As you said, since the 80s, right? He's a veteran, he's a legend, so I think, having that system in place, you're like, hey, you want to look at my bass tone when you get a chance or whatever, so that
yeah,
it filters through, in other words, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think, yeah, like I don't really know. I feel just so new to this, and they've all been doing this for such a long time that I'm
Mhm.
like, just tell me what you need me to do, and I will do it. Otherwise, I don't have too many questions for you because I'm trusting the process. You guys have done this so many times before.
Yeah.
Just yeah, let me know when you need me. I'm
Yeah.
here.
Just give me a call. Yeah, just give me a ring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, I'll drop everything and I'll be there to record a demo, like play a show, whatever you need. It's fine.
Perfect, perfect. No, that's great. That's great. So I kind of want to go beyond the heavy with you, Becky. I want to understand, you as a musician. So did you take any lessons? I mean, I see that you co-founded a private company, right? Which is teaching and rehearsal studios, and I see, if I'm pronouncing this correctly, Magnet uh, Mangofield, right?
Mango Field. Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Bristol Rock Centre was the school.
Yes.
Yeah, so I founded that with some other people who were studying music with me. So yeah, like I started having bass lessons when I was about 13.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay.
But yeah, it was from a guitarist actually. In fact, for like so I'm from a very small like village town. It's called Staverton in a place called Wiltshire, and there weren't very many bass teachers around there. So I took bass lessons from a guitarist, and it meant that like the techniques that I was developing were a little bit different, I guess, in some way. Well, I don't know. I never learned to play slap bass, for example,
Ah,
because
me too. We got something in
I
common.
yeah, okay. Because
Yeah.
yeah, it was a guitarist and he didn't really know how to teach me that, so I just never picked it up until till much later on.
Mhm, mhm.
And most of the time we spent he would just jam some guitar chords, some like interesting extended chords or whatever, and I'd just be improvising underneath it. So a lot of the lessons that I was doing was like writing bass lines, improvising
Mm.
with different kind of chords and arpeggios and scales, and a lot of it was more theory based
Oh,
than
okay.
technique based. So then when I was like 18, I moved to Bristol, and there was like a music kind of university there. So that was a huge step because there were actual bass players, actual bass teachers, and they were like,
Okay.
okay, yeah, so this is this line, this is slap and pop style, and I'm like, what the hell is slap and pop? Like, what are you doing? What?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really
You're like,
had
"It
to get
can make
that.
that sound?" You know?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
had to
yeah,
go to like lesson one of like, it's like this, and
yeah.
like, oh, it was, and everyone else there was already really experienced in this stuff, and yeah, I had a lot of catching up to do because I'd really
Mm,
like completely missed so much of what bass playing in a very broad term is.
yeah,
But it's still I still learned with my fingers, which I'm grateful for. I mean, I guess as uh, learning from a guitarist, I could have very easily picked up a plectrum, but like I think
yeah.
this guy was more he was more of a blues and like prog rock kind of guitar
Oh, okay.
player. So it's quite common to use fingerstyle for bass anyway. He never
Absolutely.
like told me that I had to play with a pick, so it never really crossed my mind. I kind of just was like, well, if I had a plectrum, I'd probably drop it and then I'd probably lose it and then I'd have to buy another one.
Yeah.
Seems
That
like a
that that
trap. I don't want to
yeah,
do that.
yeah. Yeah, it's like the bass player dilemma, so
Yeah, and so
yeah,
yeah, so I never learned really plectrum either. Like
yeah. I
so
mean,
so many.
is that
Sorry.
something that you tried though? Sorry, but I mean, because I'm so excited to ask you this question because is this something that you like? Have you ever played with a pick, like, or is it just like something so unnatural for you?
I can play a bit with a pick. Like
Okay.
it's like when I don't know how long ago it was, probably like 10 years ago, I joined a punk band and the songs were quite simple, quite straightforward. They weren't particularly like fast punk songs. So I was like, punk should be played with a plectrum. Come on. Like, this is my chance to learn it, and the songs aren't too hard. I can manage it, but it would be fine in the rehearsal room. But when it comes to like live, I'd feel so like handicapped by it, almost like it was holding me back, because like this hand can do all of this stuff, but like this hand can't keep up. Like, I can't pick those notes fast enough for my fretting hand to do the things that I want to do and I want to express. And then if I drop the pick now on stage, I don't know how quickly I can recover. I mean, I guess I would just switch to fingers. Correct, so that's what I do. And then I just switch to fingers and be like, this is so much better. Like, I think I might give up on the plectrum thing again.
Exactly.
Sorry. If I need to do something basic or like a small recording thing where it's important that it has that plectrum tone, then I would go for it. But yeah, I don't feel as comfortable with it like when I'm performing live or playing regularly with a band.
Yeah, and I think kind of like what you were saying too. It's like, for me, like, and maybe we're on the same page. Is that like you could feel the instrument, right? Just something about feeling your right hand on the strings, with your gauge. Just something with when the flesh meets the steel. You're like, oh yeah, there it is.
Absolutely.
What's up, everybody? Want to jump in really quick to tell about one of my favorite brands and my brothers over at Heavy Defender Merch. Heavy Defender Merch products are a must-have for any heavy metal fan. Their banners, pins, and apparel is made from high-quality materials that feature bold, eye-catching designs that are truly to capture the essence of the metal lifestyle. The shirts are comfortable and durable as hell, man. The hoodies are perfect for when you're leaving the whiskey and it's fucking 2 o'clock in the morning, it's cold as shit. Heavy Defenders offers a great selection of products for any metalhead looking to represent their passion in freaking style. With unique designs and quality material, hey, check out HDM.
Yeah, I felt so disconnected from the bass, like when I was using a pick. I feel like I'm kind of floating. My wrist is kind of floating there, and I don't feel like it's part of my body anymore. Whereas when it's connected with both hands, it felt like, I can move around the stage. I can kind of swing it around, and everything's in place. Like, the fingers are stuck there. My thumb is anchored. All fingers are just doing something or whatever. But when it's with a pick, like, I feel like if the bass moves, this hand will go with it, but this one just, I don't know. Like, it's just stiff. It's not in the right place anymore, and I'm probably going to pick the wrong string. Oh god.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, see, that's why I have so much respect for people that do play with a pick, right?
Yes. People who can do both. God,
yeah.
I wish I could do that.
Exactly, me too. I'm on that same boat. We're on that boat together, because I see like somebody like Dave Ellefson from Megadeth, who's like the James Hetfield of bass, right? Just that great picking, great tone. Justin Chandler from Tool, right? Just amazing tone with the pick, but it's just like, I got to feel the string. I got to feel the metal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of want to go into your basses, because you have amazing basses, and I could kind of see them in the background. But I've been again, Cliff Burton, again, the alpha and omega for what we do, right? Metal bass players and stuff, right? Rickenbacker is always been something I've always wanted to play. I've played one like in a Guitar Center many years ago, but why did we choose Rickenbacker? Was it because we were inspired by Cliff? Is it something about the tone? Talk to me about why we chose them.
I've just always wanted a Rickenbacker since I first started getting interested in bass. For example, Cliff Burton, watching videos of Metallica play, watching Motorhead. I was really into Motorhead as well. And I watch a lot of, or I used to watch a lot of like old, I don't know, I'm an old soul when it comes to music, like the 70s, the 80s. I just think like that has the coolest eras of music. And I'd find, I'd watch these like Top of the Pops we have over here and Old Grey Whistle Test, all these like great filmed like live performances, sometimes mimed, but the band are there playing. And you'd see Rickenbacker basses played by everyone, by like the punk bands like the Jam. You'd see like bands like Yes, so prog bands as well. Funk bands would use Rickenbacker, and metal bands as well. So I don't know, like that. I just makes me think of that era, which I think is like a really cool and I don't know, iconic era of music across like the 70s and 80s. Everyone seemed to have Rickenbacker basses, and I don't know whether they were a lot cheaper then, they were just like easier to get hold of, or they were just the bass to have if they were just more stylish then. I'm not sure, but that's when my kind of taste in music and in basses and everything was formed. So I was always like, yeah, one day I'm gonna have my dream bass, a Rickenbacker. And then I did get one, when was it, probably 2011 or 2010, which was this black one here.
The black one, yeah, that she's so pretty.
Yeah.
I'm like, I see you play it, I'm like, oh, that's so awesome. Like, like,
cool,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
that's the 4003, so that was made in 2002. But yeah, it's been like modified and stuff.
Gotcha.
And
that's your main one. That's your go-to.
I use that sometimes. My main one is the white one, which is just here. So yeah, this one.
That's your main one. Okay.
Yeah, this one's a 4001. So this was made in 1977, and so it's like proper vintage. And like like Motorhead. Wait, hang on, which video is it? I think it's the Overkill video where Lemmy's got a white Rickenbacker, like the kind of off-white. I always just think like that is the coolest color of a Rickenbacker. That is like the coolest bass in the world.
Like that cream color, right? Like that. Yeah.
And so I always wanted like a white one that was like similar to that video. And then one came up on eBay. It was like 7 years ago, but I was like, it must be mine. and then I lost it to someone. Someone else like outbid me, but I knew who it was. And then a few weeks later, I saw the item get relisted, and they were like, I was like, oh, what happened to the other buyer? And they were like, oh, they messed me around. And I was like, well, it was meant to be. So I managed to get it, and it was actually, I think it was the day that it was announced that Fast Eddie Clark had died, and I was on the way to go pick up the bass when I heard the news, and I was like, well, this is really weird because Motorhead, like that video with Fast Eddie Clark in it is the reason why I want this bass, and it's literally died today, like really sad. And like I don't know, it's just made it a very core memory, and like I don't know, it's a big memory for me, like when I got this bass. It's a very special instrument, and I just always want to play this bass. It's just the coolest.
They're both beautiful. I think the 4001, I mean, there's a connection with it, right?
I have and so it's been like modified with scratch plate and Seymour Duncan pickups, and there's a little like skull on the switch chip there.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, you can kind of see. It's
hard to see, but it's a skull there.
That's so cool.
And then the top, I don't know if you'll see. Oh yeah, so it says Rick and Becky at the top. That's just another.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh man, Becky, that's awesome. That's so awesome. Yeah, I think you're living a bass player dream, because I think, and I want to ask you, because as a bass player, right? Yeah, I think like the 1970s and 1960s stuff, like maybe it was either Rickenbacker or a P bass, right? You had to choose, and then all these guitar players have like awesome Jacksons, some Gibsons, all some great stuff. But I feel like we're kind of limited until like probably now, where we're getting some cool stuff, And I know right before I hit record, we were talking about NAMM a little bit, and but is there any other new instruments that kind of caught your eye? Anything that you felt like, oh wow, this is kind of cool?
I mean, I was really intrigued at the ESP stand, so I really like the look of some of their basses. And I don't know, generally, I've always wanted a really like over the top, spiky, pointy guitar.
Yeah, we kind of have to now.
I just like. Like, I never had one when I was young, and I was always like, oh, one day I'm gonna have a BC Rich bitch bass, and just like it's gonna be massive and so inconvenient to transport around, but I just like it would be so cool. Or something custom made that like just looks like a skull, or like I just want something just over the top metal ridiculous thing, you know, to balance out having a nice, classy, like
Yeah, yeah.
vintage instrument. I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's like
no, I want the most offensive, disgusting bass you can make. Not that
yeah,
anything offensive and disgusting, like they're tastefully like metal looking.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't know, whenever I start thinking what other bass would I play other than Rickenbacker, then it has to be something that's, I don't know, very striking
Mm.
in, you know, a kind of pointy way.
Yeah, it's gotta be pointy. It's gotta be pointy.
Yeah,
That's
it's
the
gotta
main
be
thing.
pointy.
It's gotta be pointy. It's gotta be sharp. It's gotta be sharp, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
I mean,
like
'cause
weird
yeah.
shapes bases basically, or you know, anything that's kind of got something a bit unique about it. Like I think that what's the coolest thing about the Rickenbacker is like I find like the binding and just
Mhm.
the shape and like the straight angles like really cool. Like
Mhm.
they're not like ooh rounded and wood colored and all
Yeah,
smooth. I'm like no, it's straight
yeah.
line. It's like triangle like inlays and I like that. And like you know the hang on, I keep getting this mirror image thing is
Yeah.
messing up. I've got like Dan Electro Longhorn. I like that because
Yeah,
it's very unique looking and
correct.
it just looks like a kitchen table from the 70s and it's kind
It
of ugly.
does.
But I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like again, you
Yeah,
know, 70s, but like a very like, you know, Slade, the Sweet kind of era bass.
yeah.
Um and yeah, but yeah, like I you know, I don't know, I'd have something pointy or you know, like Blackie Lawless in
Oh,
Wild Child. He has that like skull bass where it's
yeah.
like this like monster thing.
Just very out there, ridiculous stuff, which is great, which is great. You know, I think somebody who does it good is like somebody like Zach Wild, right? Because he kind of has
Yeah,
like out wild, like just crazy guitars, but they look sophisticated. And I think
yeah.
that's kind of like what Rickenbacker is. It's like it's very metal, but it's very like sophisticated. I think you know because it's got
Yeah,
a very classic look, but it's not sharp, but it still looks it's got attitude. It's got history.
yeah.
You know, so yeah, no, that's great, that's great. And you know, and your tone, again, I got to be a bass player here, you know. That tone, and I want to thank you and thank you for scooping out the mids, because I know your fingers, strictly fingers, and I could hear a good chunk of that clank and a good chunk of that bottom end, you know. But talk
Mhm.
to us, what is it that you use for tone? Because this I heard that in Fury, and it's just in there, it's in the mix, and I love it. But talk to us about that.
So I used to I use a lot of dark glass gear, like their amp and their photon pedal is the one that I took with Merciful Fate to on the tour and stuff. And
Mm.
you know, I do most of my recordings through that. And now I've got the quad cortex from Neural
Oh,
DSP, which is
okay.
like yeah, it's like a computer with buttons as a pedal, and it's like
Yeah.
it's insane. Like the things it can do are just incredible. But basically, I've kind of loaded up a dark glass sound on that already. They've got all these presets,
Oh,
so it's like it's still like sounds like kind of what I had before, like very like dark glass style sound. Um,
yeah,
but I don't know. I feel like it's got a little bit more punch, and it's got a little bit more.
yeah.
You can open a lot more controls in that. You know, it because you got the computer like screen type thing. You can control more of it, so
Mhm.
I can kind of modify it to the venue or just to my tastes, and I can add all
Oh,
sorts of things to it. But yeah, so it's generally a dark glass photon type of overdrive,
mhm.
and I think it might be the B7K. Is that the I can't remember which preset I use, but
Mhm.
it's yeah. There's some stuff on the quad cortex that's really like mind blowing tones.
Yeah. Also, that's where you get see, because I was under the impression that the quad cortex was just for guitar. I didn't know that. I didn't know they
Yeah.
gave it. Oh, so they gave some love to the bass players, which is great.
Yeah, you can they're the exact same thing. So you can yeah, that you just go into like the bass folder and there's like bass amps that you can get the
Oh.
sounds from. So I mean, it's great because if you want to do more creative things with it, you have all of the toys that the guitarists get and it's
Mhm.
still in your thing. So
Ah.
I don't know, yeah, if you want to have loads of weird like echoes and delays and chorus and things that you wouldn't, I don't know, stuff that you wouldn't normally put on like a more rhythmic instrument like the bass,
Mhm.
all those things are there. You can hook like a wah pedal up to it and the world is your oyster. Like I
Really?
haven't explored like 1% of it yet. Like I keep
Really?
meaning to, like there's so much on there. Like it's insane.
You sold me. I'm already
Yeah.
I'm already ready to buy
You're
it.
like, oh, I want that.
Just
Yeah,
put on the
it's great.
credit card. Let's just go.
Let's do it.
Oh, okay. Okay, no, that's great. I'm interested because I mean, yeah, that tone. I mean, because again, I'm a sucker for tone. I'm a sucker for production, and I always like hearing what other bass players are doing, right? Especially the ones that use, the finger style. I'm like, oh, what's my tribe doing?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think you have one of the greatest tones, especially when you were doing covers. I think your tone came, especially when you were doing Iron Maiden covers. I remember watching doing, I think it was either Run to the Hills or you're doing Phantom of the Opera,
Mm.
two of my favorite songs, and it sounded like if you like what Steve Harris wanted to really accomplish, really wanted to get at that time, like that crisp,
Mm.
clank and that very, very heavy bottom end. So, kudos to you because it sounds it's perfect. It's perfection.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, and I wish more bass players kind of had that where they're like, I feel like some bass players nowadays, it's too over processed, right? Where there's too
Right,
much
yeah.
twang, I mean, how do you feel about like the modern production of bass? Do you feel like that's kind of going the direction to process, or what do you think?
Um, yeah, I feel like it's not able to stand out enough. I think there's, too much fiddling with it. And it's, I don't know, like I find bass in modern music a lot harder to hear than it ever used to be. And I don't know,
Yeah.
like who pissed off the the mixing engineer.
Yeah, pretty much an
You ruined
injustice for all situation. Yeah.
you ruined it for all of us, whoever, like
Yeah.
whatever you did.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, like something about it is making it maybe too much like the guitars. It's sitting too much in their space or something, and
Yeah.
it's getting a lot harder to really pick out. And maybe there's too much plectrum. There's too much
Yeah.
guitarists saying, I can play bass, I'll just record the bass as well, it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, if you got to do it, then you got to do it. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'd appreciate it if there were more bass players recording the bass parts.
Exactly. More groove, right? I think,
Yeah.
yeah. Just somebody that knows the groove and knows that the instrument is a rhythmic instrument. And I appreciate you saying that earlier because it is where, a guitar player's like, hey, I'll do as you just said, right? The guitar player doing the bass parts where, a guitar is more of is a mid-range instrument. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
it's like, well, if you're gonna do that, it's not gonna translate. Let's just somebody who specializes in that do what they do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I love what you're doing. I want to ask you, Becky. Kind of just as a bass player to bass player, musician to musician. I want to ask you. Is there anything in the woodwork of like maybe like a solo album, maybe like a Becky, just something like, or I don't know if that's too premature, but I think to hear what all your influences, because I know you come from the old school background. I think it'd be very interesting to hear something like a solo Becky album. Would that be something possible in the future, or in the bucket list?
Um, I don't know. Like, it's something I've been toying with for, I don't know, the last few years. It's never
Okay.
really something that I've been drawn to. I don't really want to have my own project under my own name. I don't
Mm.
really, I've always been happy in the kind of background of the band.
Okay.
Like I keep things going, but I don't know, with how things are going, and like seeing a lot of uh I don't know, just seeing a lot of people that I know who have a similar journey with social media, and then coming into bands, and then going off and doing their own thing. It looks like it always like seems to go really well for them, and it seems
Mm.
like even just a very interesting thing to explore. But I don't know. Like I've been tempted many times, but I don't know if it's my calling. I don't know if I'd be happy doing my own band. You know, it's one of those things where like if someone asked me to do something, I'm like, oh, of course, yes, I'll do it right away. But there's a list of things that I need to do for myself that just sit on the list for years. Like years. if I'm kind of breathing down my own neck about it, like it just won't get done. If I have to do it for myself, I just won't do it. If I do it for someone else to like keep them happy and make them like me more, then I'll probably do it right away. And I'm like, oh, why am I like this? But I feel like that would probably be what happens is I, you know, put it on the lowest priority in my life and it doesn't go well. But I don't know, like again, I am tempted, like there's people I'm interested to work with. I know I've met so many people on this journey, like through Mercyful Fate now especially, that I could maybe ask to guest on things. It would be so exciting and like I mean, I'm sure it would be great if I could pull it off, but like, I don't know if I want to try because I feel like it's going to be super stressful, and I've got enough in my life already.
But good stress. It would, you know, it's always, you know, good stress. You know, stressful in the moment, you know, but I think it would be good stress. Yeah, no, and I'm thinking that you know, that would be great to hear from you, right? You know, again, like I said, all the influences, right? All the connections and networking that you've had. I think it'd be great to kind of just see, right? You know, a female bass player with the solo album. It's like that'd be like the first time in history. I mean, I can't think of any other female bass player that would have done that, right? You know?
Yeah, they would have gone from other bands to a solo. I'm not really sure, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not much of a songwriter, and I have no idea what direction I would go in because I don't know. My heart lies in so many different like I mean, it's all with metal, but like so different subgenres of metal.
I mean, it's all heavy. It's all heavy. Yeah.
But, you know, I'm like, I wouldn't know like what is my sound, what am I trying to say here, what am I trying to achieve, and how do I market this? You know, I have a similar problem that I guess we have with my band Fury. It started a lot more thrash metal, a lot more power metal, and it over time has come a bit more kind of classic heavy metal and like rock and roll, hard rock type stuff. And I feel like the change has been detrimental to us, maybe in some ways. Like for some people, they like it, but like it's been a bit like, oh, we're too heavy for that festival, but we're not heavy enough for that one. Or those people consider us not part of them because our branding looks too metal, but actually our songs are suitable. And you know, trying to pick the right genre when I don't know, I have so many different influences. I feel like it would be hard to know where to start.
No, and that's true, and especially, you know, nowadays where, you know, people want to put all these bands in a box, where there's so many bands that you can't put in a box anymore.
Yes, I think, you know, the greatest bands you can't put in a box, but like I don't know, people want to like, oh, they have the image and they have everything's become almost like a caricature of itself. Like if you want to be a thrash metal band, you have to wear these shoes and like you have to sing about this kind of stuff and you have to have this kind of vote. And it's like it's just a carbon copy of what has already been done. Why is there nothing new? Why is there no new, even if it's like, okay, a mix of old styles, which is definitely what I'd probably do, but like at least like the combinations may be slightly different. But it seems like, I don't know, the magazines and the you know, the press just kind of want, oh, this is the hot new band that are dressing exactly the same as, you know, all the people that that already do that, and everything is just like a carbon copy. And I find it kind of frustrating and like a little bit boring.
And then again, there's just so much out there, and especially social media, and again, you have a big presence on social media, especially in the metal community, where, you know, there's so much negativity where it's just like, okay, dude, like at least this person is writing music, right? Can we at least give them that respect, right? Does it matter, you know? And I think it's really good to see someone like yourself kind of just like, hey, let's just play music. It doesn't matter what festival we're on, like, you know, like it doesn't matter if you see Incubus or if you see Hatebreed, right? They're all good, right? They're both amazing bands, you know. So but I mean, if you ever do, I mean, I would buy the special deluxe edition of the Becky solo album.
Oh, brilliant. One sale. Well, thing is,
Yeah.
if you tell me to do it, then I'll have to do it because it's someone else asking me to do it. So
I can't
it'll
delegate.
come to the top of my list now. I'm like, wow, yes,
Yeah.
this guy needs me to do the album.
Yeah,
The right
no, no.
album.
I just think it'd be amazing, right? Again, from bass player. I mean, as bass players, we always have a song in us, right? We always have to have stuff inside of us, and we're always, we're between the drums and the guitar. What do we have to say sometimes, right? And I think someone like yourself, that if you put out an album, even an EP or whatever, a single, I think it would sound great. I think it's just something like, hey, this is who she is. Also, this is what she can contribute to the long list of beautiful things that we have now, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Oh,
Becky, I want to be respectful of your time. I know we got stuff to do. And I want to again thank you so much for everything. Thank you for coming on. I think I wish I could talk to you for another hour.
yeah, I feel
Yeah,
like we've got so much to talk about.
exactly. I mean,
I
we
feel like
just
you
knocked
have
out.
lots of
Yeah.
different questions as well, like lots of interesting ones. And I don't know, I've done quite a few interviews lately, and it's kind of been like, okay. I mean, of course, the Merciful Fate story always comes up because it's a great story. But
I
yeah,
gotta
there's
ask.
a
I gotta
lot of the
ask.
same. You gotta ask, yeah.
I
But
gotta
yeah,
ask that.
it's been a
Yeah.
lot of the same. But this has been good. It's been different. I think it's because it's the bass player thing.
It is.
That's
It
what's
is. It
helping.
is. Yeah. Well, we got to stick together. That's the thing.
Yeah,
We got to stick
absolutely.
together.
There aren't
We're
enough
behind.
bands with multiple bass players. That's the thing. Like otherwise, there'd be no stopping us if the bass players come together.
Yep. We got to
They'll
unite. We
be
got to unite.
unstoppable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Becky, again, thank you so much for your time. Where can
Thank
people
you.
find you? Where can people interact with you? Where can they find you? Talk to us.
Go to my website, which is beckybaldwinbass.com. On there, you'll find my links to Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Patreon. I'm quite active on Patreon at the moment. Like, I definitely recommend signing up from just £3 per month, and YouTube and all that kind of stuff. Everything's the same, Becky Baldwin Bass, and also my web store. If you want to look for Fury, if you could type in like on Spotify or something, Fury Born to Sin, that's the name of our latest album. Because
Mm.
there's a lot of bands called Fury. It's a very generic name. So you may
Oh,
find the wrong band.
really? Oh,
But if you search for Born to Sin, you'll find our artist profile. Then you can kind of go from there and find all the rest of our stuff. And the band website is furyofficial.co.uk.
nice, nice. Okay,
And
Becky.
all the if you buy anything from Bandcamp or our website, we're completely DIY. We have no management, booking agent, distribution, anything.
Mm.
Everything is in the room next to me here, all the CDs and vinyl and
Oh, nice.
t-shirts. So I will be hand shipping your anything you buy. I'll be posting it to you, and please be patient because I'm not Amazon.
Yeah. Well, exactly. It will. It
But
will
it
get
will
to your
always
doorstep.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It will be there. Promise.
It will get there, but it'll take a while.
Yeah.
Lovely postage system we have these days.
Of course, right? Yeah, they UPS and FedEx can only do so much, right?
Yeah.
Becky, again, thank you so much. I appreciate you.